Hello and welcome to another video. Today we are looking at Sage Art Windstyle Rasen Shuriken. It has a cooldown of 14 seconds, a power of 3 and a range of 5. When using this projectile ninjutsu, it will go ahead and give you hyper armor, and it reduces the defense of the enemy that you have hit and the healing power of the enemy that you've hit. Now, because this is a projectile ninjutsu, it does have obviously kind of a bit of a startup time, and because you can't hold it, you can't hold and move around with it. Instead, you must choose exactly where you're going to be stationary, and then you must throw it. And because of that, you have to choose wisely on when to throw it and whether or not it will land or won't land. Usually, if a target is moving, it may or may not land, and if it's usually just like kind of a bit more vertical kind of movement rather than horizontal, then you're most likely to get the hit as well. Of course, it does have tracking, and the tracking is actually really good for what it is, and you'll most likely not really have much of a problem with it. There isn't, too much of an issue with it, other than the fact that it takes a little bit of a startup time, and you can get hit out of your ninjutsu at the startup time, but that would have to be like at the very, instance that you press the button that startup time happens. So, you have a decent hyper armor, however it can be taken away just like any other hyper armor. So you want to be careful that you're not using it at such a close range, because if you're using it at such a close range, you will most likely get hit and get, stunned out of your ninjutsu. So because of that, you kind of want to make sure that you do it from a distance and you use it like a projectile, like it's meant to be. Now, just because it's a projectile does not mean that you can just chuck it around like a bunch of pizza. So you kind of have to go ahead and make sure that when you're using it, it's usually in your combo or within a close range distance. And that's what the hyper armor is for, so that then you can actually seal the deal. For example, like that guy right there for the range. He was kind of up close, even though I wasn't aiming for him. Technically, I still hit him and he was in front of me in my way. Because of the hyper armor, it helped. However, something like Susanoo armor that you just saw, it can't break through. However, what it can break through is simple things like Sand Shield and Water Pillar. So you can use it for those base games and actually get rid of those shields. So I just wanted to have a bit of fun during this gameplay, so I'm kind of just chucking it around like pizza. Just handing it out to everyone that I see, because I've got like a spam scroll twice. By a spam scroll, I mean a cooldown scroll, which is, I hope you do know what it is, but essentially it gives you your ninjutsu back instantly. So you're able to just continuously use it for a temporary amount of time. Anyway, so as you can see, when you're throwing the actual wind shuriken, it's very easy to miss. That's because in a certain range, the tracking turns off, and that's when you kind of want to pay attention, because it's roughly around about 1 meter away in distance to where it stops tracking. Now 1 meter is kind of more or less like one back dodge. If you dodge backwards once, that's essentially a meter. So within their own, meter, that tracking will kind of stop. So the moment they jump up, they can actually completely avoid it just that easily. You just have to jump up and block, maybe, just in case. But as you can see near the end here, if you go ahead and actually use it within your close range combos, it works out much better than it does as an actual projectile. However, of course, as a projectile, if you want to go ahead and hit someone from a distance, it can do that as well. However, this is more or less a good way to exchange damage when you need to. For what the ninjutsu is, it's actually quite good in terms of damage, because the damage, as you saw, was actually quite strong in comparison to some of the other things that we have reviewed so far. It's similar to Lariat, but it's actually slightly stronger, so it gives us a bit more of an advantage. Not only that, but it reduces their defense, so anything afterwards would hit even harder. Not only that, but if it's a healer, you have even more advantage, because now the amount of healing they receive is going to be lowered. So it's quite useful, and it is quite nice. Not only that, but it can break Sand Shield and Water Pillar. So for that reason, it's definitely worth using if you know, you need to have it for a certain reason. So that's the end of the video. Please like, subscribe, and press the notification bell. And I just want to show this quick clip of, well, just a normal combo, to be honest with you. But yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video.